I'm Melissa Lindberg, and I am a reference librarian in the Prints and Photographs Division at the Library of Congress. And today I'll be talking about some of the collections that we have in the division that relate to Native American communities and Alaska Native communities, as well as some strategies for how to find descriptions and digitize content from those collections. Just as an introduction, the Prints and Photographs Division is the primary visual resources division at the Library of Congress, although I want to emphasize there are other divisions of the library that also have visual resources, such as the Manuscript Division, the American Folklife Center, which is best known for its audio recordings, but certainly has strong collections that are still picture formats and motion picture formats as well. There's also the Geography and Map Division. So just at the outset, just want to let you know that there are other places to search within the library for visual resources, but my division is the one that has the most stuff. Just to give a sense of an overview of what we have in the collections, we have about 16 million items in the collection, and about 1.25 million images have been scanned. Of those that relate to Native communities, we have a little bit over 20,000 images is our estimate. Most of those date from about 1860 to about 1940, and most were created by European American creators as opposed to members of actual Native communities. Something to keep in mind when you're searching. And then in terms of formats, as the name of my division sort of indicates, we have prints and photographs, but the vast majority of the images in the collection are photographic formats dating from the origins of photography in the mid-19th century up to the present. But we also have other formats such as historical prints, cartoon drawings, architecture and design drawings, posters, postcards, so a number of different other visual formats. In terms of how to find descriptions of images in the collections, we do have an online guide to searching for collections in this area, and the guide is called Native American History and Culture, Finding Pictures. You can find it on the Library of Congress website at guides.loc.gov/native-american-pictures. And the guide is divided up into several different pages. There's an introductory page that talks about, just gives an overview of the kinds of things that you'd find in the collection. And then we have 2 pages that I'm just going to focus on here that will give you some idea of where to look for information about collections that relate to Native communities. So one of these pages that is useful in the guide for finding information about the collections is the Selected Collections page. And this page just gives some highlights some collections that have content that relates to Native communities. And we have several of the collections are grouped into certain kinds of categories. One of those categories is documentary surveys, and the collections that are listed within the documentary surveys generally cover a wide geographic area, including the Edward Curtis collection of historic photographs, the Historic American Building Survey, Historic American Landscape Survey, Historic American Engineering Record collection, and a couple of other collections. You can click on, for the most part, descriptions of collections or the title of the collection to get a better description of each collection listed there. So I'm clicking here on the Edward S. Curtis collection. This takes you to the front page of that guide. It gives a general overview of what's in the collection, and then you can search in the search bar here for specific, using specific keyword terms. So for example, I can search for Yakima. And so you would come up with results that relate to the Yakima communities. And then you can click on the other links at the left to learn more about that collection. And scrolling further down, again on the Selected Collections page, you can see that there are other groupings of materials, including our newspaper and magazine photograph collections. You can see several collections listed here, including the National Photo Company collection, which is based out of Washington, D.C., and has coverage of, for example, delegations that visited Washington, D.C. for official business. We also have the New York World Telegram and Sun newspaper photograph collection, which dates from a little bit later. The bulk coverage there is from about 1920 to 1967, for example. And then the Look magazine photographic collection, which dates from about 1952 to 1971. So you can see that there are different collections that have different date coverage. And then when you search within those collections, you'll see that there's different kinds of material that you'd find there. We also have listed here other formats. There's stereograph cards, which are consist of two almost identical photographic images on one mounted card, which when viewed through a stereograph viewer makes the image look 3D. We have drawings, and then we also have a variety of prints in the collection, including the Popular Graphic Arts collection. Many of those images are from the 19th century and show Native individuals in a pejorative way. And we also show conflict between tribes and the U.S. government. And then we also have a fine print collection which dates up to the present, and we are actively working to acquire more works by Native creators. So a lot of the fine prints that we have in that collection are now starting to have some, to provide a Native perspective. And then we also have a couple of poster collections, including the Yanker poster collection, which includes several, I would say a couple of dozen images that relate to the American Indian movement. So you can see there's quite a variety of images from the collections that you might find described in using our search tools. In terms of actually finding descriptions and searching sort of across all of the collections, there are a couple of different strategies or a couple of different access points. The primary place to search is the Prints and Photographs online catalog. Clicking on that here. This is a description of the Prints and Photographs online catalog that's in the guide to finding resources related to Native Americans. And you can see there's here on this page a description of what the Prints and Photographs online catalog is, as well as a number of different search terms or different strategies for searching in terms of coming up with keyword terms that you might use to input into the online catalog. So that's something to keep in mind as you're searching the online catalog. I'm going to go to the online catalog itself now, but you can sort of toggle back and forth between this page here that gives you some suggestions for keyword terms and between the online catalog itself. And I also want to emphasize that, so the Prints and Photographs online catalog includes descriptions of materials specifically from the Prints and Photographs division's collections. But you can also search for descriptions, the same descriptions, at loc.gov through a catalog that includes descriptions from across the Library of Congress's collections. I'm going to focus on the Prints and Photographs online catalog because it is isolated to our division's collections and has some advantages in some ways. But you can try searching in both places because both catalogs have sort of advantages and disadvantages over each other. So in terms of some search tips, I'm going to do a search for Chippewa here. And when you're searching the online catalog, it's Indians is a very common search term that you can use to try to isolate your search to images that relate to Native communities, as opposed to, say, street names that might include that Native community's name. And I'm going to add just to get to one specific image here, I'm going to add this search term to come to a specific catalog record, and I'm going to just walk you through the online record to talk about some of the description that you might see there. And I would encourage you to look at the entire description. People often miss information because they are not looking at every search field, which is completely understandable, but sometimes there's information there that if you just take some time to look through the whole thing, it might answer some of your questions. You can see the title here for this particular image is in brackets. Usually when you see a title in brackets, that means that the Library of Congress, staff at the Library of Congress have assigned that image that title. If you don't see the brackets, generally that means that that title was supplied by a creator or was given to us with the item as it came to us. So when we, if we get an image, it might have a note written on the back, and we would, if we do find that information, we add it to the online catalog, generally in the title field. And so if you don't see the brackets around it, that means we probably got the information that way or on some accompanying documentation that came to us with the item. So in this case, you can see that there's a description here. Ojibwa Chippewa men standing and sitting around a table with others, probably during a distribution of goods at the Bad River Reservation, Odana, Wisconsin. And then you can see in the date created field, the date is also in brackets, which means that the date wasn't given to us directly, but we probably found other documentation that provided that information. There's information about the medium, so what format the image is, one photographic print on a half stereo card. And then there's a summary that actually includes some identifying information for one of the individuals in the photograph. The photograph shows Richard Barden, man in black hat at lower right, from Superior, Wisconsin, who is an acting Indian school teacher and farmer. And you can see here that it says in parentheses that our source for that information was a similar image with its description at the Minnesota Historical Society. I want to point out that we actually had the description that we originally had assigned to this image was incorrect, and a researcher, who is actually one of the Mukurtu Fellows, current Mukurtu Fellows, provided us with the correct information. She came to the reading room, looked at the image, and said, this is not, originally it was, the catalog record said that the image was depicting Cherokee men, and she said, these are definitely not Cherokee men, and thought that they were Chippewa, probably. And then fortuitously went to, I believe she was at the National Anthropological Archives, found the same image and found the more accurate information, which she then provided to us, and we were able to update our record and provide more accurate information. So if you happen to ever come across an image that has incorrect information assigned to it, please do let us know. Contact us. We're so grateful when people can provide us with updated information, or even if we don't have incorrect information, just additional context that you might have. If you know the individual's name or tribe and we don't have that information, please do let us know. I also want to point out, going further down into the catalog record, there is a reproduction number listed here. That means this is the number that is assigned to the black and white film copy negative that was produced from the original image. That reproduction number is sort of a unique identifier for the image. So if you copied that and pasted that number into a document, and then later on wanted to come back to it and you pasted that reproduction number into the online catalog search bar, that would bring you back to the description for this image. Coming to the rights advisory for this image is no known restrictions on publication, and that means exactly what it says, is that we don't know of any restrictions on its use, and we assign that label even when we know that an image is in the public domain. We don't say public domain. No known restrictions on publication is what we say. And then further down in the notes field, there's just more information about where we found the information that you see in the catalog record there. So you see title and date were devised by library staff, and then you see that the source is indicated as a researcher by the name of R. Bickle, and says what her source for her information was for the updated information she was able to provide to us. I want to point out that when you're in a catalog record for a specific image, particularly for images that are cataloged in the call number as from a lot, so you see LOT here in the call number, usually you're able to, if you're in the item level description, you're going to be able to get back to the description for the group that this image is stored with by looking at the links underneath the thumbnail image at the top left in the catalog record. So you can see underneath the image where it says item is from this group. You can click on that link there. And that will take you back to a description for the group that that image was cataloged with. And you can see it says images, this was an assigned title, images relating to Ojibwa, Dakota, Salish, and other tribes. You can see that the related names here listed are F.J. Haynes, and that's probably because that was the name of the individual who, at least his name is indicated on some of the images as being the photographer probably, or the publisher. In the date created published field, you can see the date. Before the date, there's a C, and usually that C means indicates that that's the date of copyright. So the date range is about 1870 to 1900 for the 9 photo prints that form this lot. And I see also that the summary information for the group of images still needs to be updated. We still indicate here that there's a Cherokee, an image of Cherokee men. So we still are going to need to update that record. One other thing that's kind of important, going back to this single image description, is a lot of people are interested in obtaining copies of images that you see in the online catalog. So I think I had mentioned that about 1.25 million of our 16 million or so images have been scanned. Most of those digitized images are going to be available for download from off-site. Some of them are not available for download from off-site due to rights restrictions or rights considerations. We don't know the rights status of a particular image. But if the image has the rights advisory of no known restrictions on publication, that means you should be able to download, be able to click on the links here underneath the thumbnail image in the catalog record, click on that, and then download the image that way. If the rights status is unknown, or if we know that the image is restricted, you won't be able to do that. You'll still see the thumbnail image in the catalog record, but these links down here will be grayed out and you won't actually be able to click on them and download the image. That's a very general overview of how to search our online catalog. If you have any more questions, of course, feel free to contact us. But I do want to point out that there are a few other ways of searching for descriptions of images in the collections. One of them is a publication called Indians of North America, A Guide to Pictorial Lots, which was compiled by a predecessor of mine at the Prints and Photographs Division, who had compiled information about lots, groups of images that were cataloged with that call number, with a lot call number. We have other ways of cataloging images as well. But she had put together this guide to specifically these lots. And I'm going to click on the link here from this online guide to searching for images related to Native communities. There is a link out to a digitized copy of this publication in the Internet Archive. And just to give you a sense of what that looks like, there's the front page. There's a quick description of what a lot is, which is basically a group of images that are related in some way that the Library of Congress staff, staff from my division grouped together and sort of cataloged together. And then what follows that is a numerical list of all the lots and descriptions, accompanying descriptions. What's most useful about this guide is if you scroll to the very end, you can see that here is a name index, so there's an alphabetical list of names of individuals depicted and creators, as well as corresponding lots that you might consult if you want to find lots that relate to that person in some way. We also have a subject index that you can also search, which is also alphabetical, and it's the same thing where you look for a subject, and then there's a list of corresponding lots that if you go flip back to that lot number in the guide, you'll see a description. We also have lot descriptions in our online catalog, but in some cases, the lot descriptions in this publication provide more detailed information for how the lot might relate to specific Native communities. Then going back to the guide, the Native American guide, You can see that there are a couple of other sort of access points, ways of searching that are listed here. The two other ways of searching here would require a visit to the Prints and Photographs reading room. We have some card indexes that you can search for some collections. This is, for example, a screenshot of a view of the card index for the U.S. News and World Report collection, which has a alphabetical subject index that was put together by U.S. News staff. We didn't put it together, and the vocabulary that's listed here is not standardized in any way. It was just the working file that U.S. News used that corresponded. Each card in the index corresponds to a specific job or photographic assignment that U.S. News staff were photographing. That's an example of one of the card indexes, but we also have card indexes we have a biographical index that is alphabetical by the last name of the person depicted. We have an index for specifically names of Native American individuals. We have card indexes for a number of other collections, and so that access point, those kinds of access points can be useful if you are able to come to the reading room to do research that way. And then lastly, the other sort of access point that we have listed here is the reading room browsing files. Unlike most special collections reading rooms, the Prints and Photographs Division reading room has some actual original material available for browsing in the reading room itself. So you can see a picture here of some file cabinets in the reading room. And I have listed here a few different files that might be of interest, that might have some content, or that do have content related to some Native communities. We have a stereograph file, and if you click on these links here, they'll give you descriptions of those collections. There's a specific subjects file that's alphabetically arranged alphabetically by subject, and then a corresponding specific subjects graphics file, which is arranged by lot number, keeping in mind that there are lots of different ways things are described, lots of different organizational schemes to navigate. There's also a biographical file, which is organized alphabetically by the last name of the person depicted, and then also Farm Security Administration, Office of War Information Collection, file print browsing file. And that collection is very rich for getting a glimpse of life in the United States between 1935 and 1944. The government, the federal government, funded this project and administered this project to document life across the U.S., and there are some images in that collection that relate to Native communities. And lastly, the last thing I wanted to point out was the Library of Congress has compiled and put EAD finding aids on the library's website for some time. So the Library of Congress has a website for listing its finding aids. The Prints and Photographs Division doesn't have a lot of finding aids in this online guide, but there are some, and we are starting to produce more finding aids this way. So you can search our collections this way, and there is a way you can either search across all of the library's finding aids in the search bar up top, or you can specifically toggle down to the Prints and Photographs Division's collections. And we do have, for example, a recently published guide to Look Magazine picture research file collection, which is separate from our Look Magazine collection, but you can search within that collection here, and you can browse the contents list. You can search within the finding aid for descriptions, and you can see listed here there are a number of different subject headings that start with Indians and then have subheadings within that category. That's generally how images from that collection are organized. That collection is not available, it hasn't been digitized, so if you wanted to look at materials from that collection, you would need to contact us ahead of time, submit a call slip. We'd explain, we can help you know how to do that if you contact us, and then we can help make an appointment for you to come to the reading room and view the collection materials. If you are able to make it to the Prints and Photographs reading room, we are open Monday through Friday from 8:30 to 5. You would need to first obtain a Library of Congress reader card, get your library card before you come, and then otherwise, once you have your reader card, you can come to the reading room, and Prints and Photographs Division staff will be happy to help you, assist you with your research. And we are closed on federal holidays, but other than that, we are open year-round, and we hope to see you.